this summer, there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show. And then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened.
3 top-level producers are out after staffers accuse them of misconduct. They are Jonathan Norman, Kevin Lehman, and Ed Glavin.
You can't wake up 17 years later and say, oh, I didn't know, I had no idea. You were part of that. You're the one who knew about it, you witnessed it, you encouraged it.
Mostly just sad that Ellen is so rich and powerful and a female comedian would take her time to hurt someone who she probably guesses is somewhat of a starving artist. I have seen some of the celebrities who came out and been like, well, she was never rude to me. And I'll be like, yeah, you're a rich, powerful celebrity. Well, she wasn't rude to you, I get it. But you aren't someone who's working underneath her.
Ellen DeGeneres built her entire career on 3 words: be kind to one another. She said it at the end of every single episode for nearly 2 decades in front of millions of people. It was her brand, her promise, her whole identity. And then, in the span of about 18 months, all of it collapsed. Not slowly, not quietly. It collapsed loudly, publicly, and with enough receipts to fill a courtroom. Right now, Ellen is essentially invisible. The woman who once commanded one of the most watched daytime shows on television, who had A-list celebrities begging for a seat on her couch, who handed out cars and vacations like party favors, is nowhere to be found. No show, no cultural presence, no redemption tour, just silence. And the question everyone's been asking is, how does someone fall that far, that fast? The answer is messier than most people realize. Because this wasn't a single scandal that took her down. It was layers. Years of behavior slowly building up beneath the surface, until one day the floor gave out completely.
The truth is, I am that person that you see on TV. I am also a lot of other things. Sometimes I get sad, I get mad, I get anxious, I get frustrated, I get impatient, and I am working on all of that. I am a work in progress. And if I've ever let someone down, if I've ever hurt their feelings, I am so sorry for that.
Phony, liar, hypocrite. That's my reaction. She's known about this for 17 years. She's created this culture. I was there from day one. We were all petrified of her. She was not nice.
Here's what's wild, though. Ellen wasn't just popular. She was untouchable. At her peak, she was pulling in around 4 million viewers per episode. She interviewed sitting presidents, launched careers, reduced grown adults to tears with her generosity on camera. Her approval ratings were through the roof, the kind of celebrity goodwill that takes decades to build. But there's a pattern with people who build their whole persona around being the nicest person in the room.
Being known as the Be Kind Lady is a tricky position to be in. So let me give you some advice out there. If anybody's thinking of changing their title or giving yourself a nickname, do not go with the Be Kind Lady. Don't do it.
The performance gets exhausting to maintain. And when the cameras stop rolling, a very different person tends to show up.
We were told from the very beginning, don't talk to Ellen, don't do this, you can't, go into her office. It was very nerve-wracking, very stressful. We all walked on eggshells all the time.
Now, after Ellen's Netflix special, one former employee spoke out and said, even however many years removed I am from working there, seeing her just brings me back to that fear and that anxiety that I would have. They said about their experience working for Ellen. Literally, the sight of her gives me a trauma response. I can't say that for any other job I've had in any other field.
Ellen's version of that different person had been hiding in plain sight for years. Little moments, awkward interviews, backstage whispers that the entertainment industry kept shushing. Nobody wanted to be the one to take down America's sweetheart. Until they did. The first cracks didn't come from some explosive expose. They came from something much smaller. Footage that already existed, interviews that had already aired, moments that millions of people had watched and somehow explained away in real time. Take the Mariah Carey incident. Mariah came on the show in 2008, and Ellen, fully aware that pregnancy rumors were swirling, sat across from her with a glass of champagne and basically dared her to drink it on live television. The implication was obvious. If Mariah refused, she was confirming the pregnancy. If she drank it, she was either lying or putting a baby at risk. There was no good option. Mariah drank. And weeks later, she publicly revealed she had suffered a miscarriage. She later said that moment on Ellen's show was one of the most painful experiences of her public life. Ellen never addressed it, never apologized, just moved on to the next episode like it never happened.
It really seemed like an effective PR spin. It was perfectly done, but I think that that's exactly what Ellen needed to do. It's very clear that Ellen wanted this to be perfect. Her and her producers and her writers, they clearly spent a lot of time and put a lot of thought into this. They want to do this and they want to move on and move forward and probably never talk about the allegations again.
Now, last year, her new Netflix special, Ellen DeGeneres, For Your Approval, was released, and she said that she was kicked out of show business for being a strong woman. But former employees of the Ellen DeGeneres show wondered why she felt that way, as she replaced her crew with non-union workers during the pandemic and fired people for going on medical or bereavement leave.
Then there was the Taylor Swift situation. Ellen had a recurring bit where she'd flash photos of men on a screen and watch Taylor squirm with embarrassment while trying to get her to admit who she'd written songs about or slept with. Every time Taylor denied something, Ellen pushed harder. It wasn't playful. It had this sharp, almost predatory edge to it. The kind of teasing that gets laughs from the audience, but leaves the person in the hot seat feeling completely stripped. For someone who preached kindness as a lifestyle, it was a strange hobby to have.
Ellen has always been a mean person, and it's not, she had her dust up with the press and these stories probably 2 or 3 years ago, but it's sort of like when you go into a business and people are always all friendly, or they go into a business and everyone's sort of douchey, and you're going like, why is everyone so mean and crappy in this business? It's the owner is that way,
But the moment that really started waking people up? Dakota Johnson. Because unlike Taylor, unlike Mariah, Dakota didn't squirm. She pushed back. Ellen tried her usual move, making Dakota look bad for not inviting her to a birthday party, doing the whole wounded, dramatic thing in front of the audience. And Dakota, completely calm, looked her in the eye and said, "Actually, you were invited, and you didn't come." The audience went quiet. And something shifted. That Dakota moment spread everywhere. Clips circulated for weeks. People rewatched it obsessively, not just because it was satisfying, but because it cracked something open. Suddenly, viewers started going back through old episodes with fresh eyes, and what they found wasn't flattering.
When you do Leno was fun and breezy and easy, and people were nice and they were kind of laid back, and they weren't looking over their shoulder at all. Kimmel's show is laid back and nice, and people are nice. And Letterman's show, people are scared, or they were scared when I did it. 2 times I did. They're scared because Dave would scare them. And Ellen's show, people were scared, real scared.
There was a pattern to how Ellen treated guests she perceived as beneath her, or guests who weren't playing along with her agenda. The warmth would flicker. The smile would stay frozen in place, but something behind the eyes would shift. Fans who had watched her for years started recognizing it, that split-second flash of irritation when someone didn't perform the way she wanted them to. And if that's how she behaved on camera, what was happening off it?
We were in our production meetings, and she would watch Ed go off on people. Ellen would look at Ed, and she would laugh, because I was hoping she was going to say, "Ed, you can't be yelling at crew this way. You can't be yelling at people this way." She laughed, and she said, "Every production needs their dog."
Meaning
Ed is her dog.
like her attack dog.
Her attack dog, so therefore she doesn't need to do that. He took the role of being the attack dog, that she didn't have to now be the attack dog, so she didn't have to yell.
So when Ellen says she's not aware of this environment, you don't think that rings true?
It's a lie.
In the summer of 2020, that question got answered, and the answer was brutal. A Twitter thread started it. One former employee posted about their experience working on the Ellen DeGeneres show, describing a workplace culture that was cold, dismissive, and at times outright hostile. Within hours, more people came forward, then more. Former staff members described being told not to speak to Ellen directly, not to make eye contact with her in the hallways, not to approach her under any circumstances. One employee said they worked on the show for years, and Ellen never once learned their name.
Really spiraling here, and it's sort of two situations unfolding at once. One of them has to do with a mountain of complaints against the show's executive producers. Some 47 past and current employees have complained to BuzzFeed News. Allegations ranging from toxic work environment, bullying, now even harassment. So Warner Media is investigating that, and that investigation will likely lead to people losing their jobs.
The stories kept coming. Reports of racism, conduct from senior producers, employees being punished for taking medical leave, people fired for attending family funerals.
The other allegation has to do with Ellen herself, and allegations that she's not the happy-go-lucky, nice person that her show would lead people to believe. And that started off as sort of a rumor and a trending hashtag on Twitter. And then a bodyguard spoke out against her who worked with her, saying that she was pretty icy in person.
She apparently is the lady from the My Favorite Murder podcast.
Okay.
But she originally was the head writer for Ellen. She had gone on to Mark Maron in 2014 and said that DeGeneres was a great boss, that is, until the writer's strike in 2007, when Ellen continued doing the show and Kilgraf ended up leaving, and it was a very painful experience. And some people report that she was fired by Ellen for refusing to cross the picket line.
Warner Media launched a formal investigation. 3 executive producers were eventually pushed out of the show as a result. Ellen addressed it on air at the start of season 18, delivering what was supposed to be an accountability speech. She acknowledged that the workplace hadn't always felt safe or welcoming. She said changes were being made. She seemed, on the surface, remorseful.
On Monday, the staff of The Ellen Show returned to work remotely after several weeks of summer hiatus. They're gearing up for the start of the 18th season in September. So the show will go on, and executives are assuring employees that Ellen will continue as host.
But the audience had already started doing the math, and the numbers weren't adding up in her favor. The apology didn't land the way Ellen needed it to, partly because of the delivery, which felt rehearsed in a way that rubbed people wrong, but mostly because of the timing. While she was on stage talking about growth and change, people were simultaneously digging up old interviews where Ellen had said things that contradicted the whole kindness narrative in real time. There was a resurfaced clip of Ellen comparing being in quarantine during the pandemic to being in jail. She filmed it from her massive, sprawling California mansion, surrounded by every comfort imaginable, and joked about how hard it was. The public response was swift and merciless. People who had lost jobs, lost family members, lost entire livelihoods during that same period were not in the mood for a multimillionaire's lockdown complaints.
This one really sucks. After working for Ellen for over 5 years, a close friend left to have a baby and found a different job on a union network so that it had good benefits.
This is a tweet you're reading?
This is some tweet I'm reading.
Oh, okay.
Ellen begged her to return and then fired her after 1 week, no reason given, and the friend struggled for a long time with new baby and no benefits. So these are horror stories.
Yeah.
Then came the stories about her treatment of actual celebrities. Former guests started quietly letting it slip in interviews that the experience of appearing on her show wasn't what it looked like from the outside. The warmth that came across on screen wasn't always present in the green room. Some described her as distant and disinterested the moment cameras weren't pointed at her. Others hinted at interactions that left them uncomfortable, without being specific enough to make headlines, but specific enough to stick. And then there was the friendship that nobody could stop talking about. Ellen and George W. Bush, sitting together at a Dallas Cowboys game, laughing like old friends. Ellen defended the friendship publicly, saying she believes in being kind to everyone, regardless of political differences. It was a very Ellen thing to say. It was also exactly the wrong thing to say to an audience that was already questioning whether her kindness was selective. The backlash was instant. Her core audience felt genuinely betrayed, because for many of them, Ellen had represented something, and watching her laugh courtside with someone whose policies had caused real harm to real people felt like a reveal they hadn't been prepared for. Here's where the plot twist comes in, and almost nobody saw it coming. The ratings told the story before Ellen was willing to admit it. Season 18 dropped hard. Season 19 dropped harder. The audience that had stuck with her through the workplace scandal, through the Bush controversy, through the pandemic complaints, was quietly tuning out. Not in one dramatic wave, but in a slow, steady bleed that nobody at the network could stop. In May 2021, Ellen announced the show would end after season 19. She framed it as her choice, a natural conclusion. She told The Hollywood Reporter that the show had stopped being a challenge, that she needed something new to stimulate her. It was a graceful exit speech, carefully worded and professionally delivered. But the numbers suggested a different story. At its peak, the Ellen DeGeneres show was pulling in close to 4 million viewers per episode. By the final season, that number had collapsed to somewhere around 1 million. Advertisers had quietly started distancing themselves. The cultural conversation had moved on. Ellen wasn't being canceled in the loud, explosive way that some celebrities experience. She was being phased out, slowly made irrelevant by the very audience she had spent 20 years cultivating. And here's the part that genuinely nobody predicted. After the show ended, Ellen essentially disappeared. There was no Netflix special, no podcast comeback, no daytime replacement vehicle, no carefully managed image rehabilitation tour. Just nothing. For someone with her level of fame and resources, the silence has been almost eerie. She moved to the UK with her wife Portia de Rossi, bought a property in the Cotswolds, kept an extremely low profile. The occasional paparazzi photo, the rare sighting at a local market, nothing resembling a public figure trying to rebuild. Whether that silence is strategic, whether she's waiting for the right moment to resurface, or whether the woman who told millions of people to be kind finally ran out of ways to make that story believable, not even her closest circle seems to know for certain.
All right, what does the panel think of Ellen leaving the country? Oh, this I find so fascinating because first Ellen is canceled by the left. I mean, she said, I was kicked out of show business. That wasn't from the right. That was because she had a toxic workplace and all the things that the people are. So then Trump gets, so she's canceled by the left in her country, but then she's leaving the country because the right got elected. I'm just asking about that. It doesn't completely compute, right?
Ellen DeGeneres spent 20 years building something that felt unbreakable. A show, a persona, a promise. And in the end, it wasn't one person or one scandal or one bad interview that brought it down. It was the weight of the gap between who she said she was and who she actually turned out to be. That gap, once people saw it clearly, was too wide to ignore. The kindness brand only works if the kindness is real. And when enough people started questioning whether it ever was, the whole structure had nothing left to hold it up. What happens next for Ellen is genuinely unclear. Maybe the silence ends. Maybe there's a comeback nobody sees coming. Or maybe she's one of the rare cases where the exit is actually the ending. Either way, the story is a reminder that in the age of the internet, the receipts never disappear. They just wait. If you've been following this one, drop a comment below with what you think. Was this a fall from grace, or was the grace never really there to begin with? Like this video if you want more deep dives like this one, and subscribe for more Hollywood stories that go beyond the headlines. See you in the next one.
Where? And she announced it, England. Cotswold, England. Yeah. Yeah. Well.
She's always lived in LA, right?
Yes.
Now she's in the Cotswolds. Yeah. I give it like 4 months.
The UK, if it were a state of the United States, would be 51st.
Right.
And so there's a very big difference between living in the United States and living anywhere else in the world. So I think she's overreacting.
But if you have money, every place is good. Right?
I don't know.